Let's go ahead, export, and import this into Unreal Engine 4 because we want to troubleshoot early and often. It will also help us to establish connection between Maya LT and Unreal Engine 4. This way we can just export and then re-import into Unreal Engine 4 without having to go through all the menus again. Let's select all objects and freeze transformations first. We don't have to do this to export, but I want to simplify the scene and to make sure that if I move any of these objects, I can bring them back by setting rotation and translation and scale to default values. So I'm going to select them all, and on my tool shelf I have freeze transformation. With everything selected, let's export. Go to File, and we could use Send to Unreal, but it will require us to set up a project and point to Unreal directory first. There is a benefit of using this option because it removes Maya LT polygon count limitation. As you may know, Maya LT 2018 has a polygon export limit set at 250,000, unless you use Send to Unreal, Send to Unity, or Send to Mudbox. We will never reach 250,000 polygon limit. Our mesh is going to be way below that. So instead, we're going to use Export Selection. Let's go to Options, and File Type set to FBX Export, and everything else here is set to default. Let's go back to File, Export Selection, and click on Workspace Root. We want to create a folder where we will store all of our exported meshes. So let's create a new folder and name it Exported Meshes. Let's go inside this folder. In Options, under Geometry, enable Smoothing Groups and Smooth Mesh. We are not going to use Triangulate. In previous versions of Maya LT prior to 2018, this was recommended that you use when you export your meshes, but in 2018, it will give you an error if you use Triangulate along with Smooth Mesh and Smoothing Groups. So let me show you what happens when you do. First, let's go ahead and define file name, Miami Corner Store, and also to note that we are going to be using FBX version 2018. Now, export selection. And here's the error that you get. It tells you that you cannot use Triangulate with Smoothing Groups enabled. So you could before, but now you can't. So let's go ahead back to File, Export Selection, and we're going to disable Triangulate. But you do want to enable Smoothing Groups and Smooth Mesh. These are the two important options. Let's go ahead and export again, and now everything works. Unreal Engine 4 will triangulate your model on import. If you want to triangulate it yourself in Maya LT, you could go to Mesh and use Triangulate option and then export, or you could manually triangulate it. I'm going to let Unreal Engine 4 triangulate my model for me, and we're not going to do it inside Maya LT. And if we need more precise triangulation for some reason, we will do it at the very end when we are optimizing our mesh. But at this stage, we just want to get it inside Unreal Engine 4 and test it. So we're going to let Unreal Engine 4 deal with it. Let's import our static mesh. First, let's save this map as a new file. Go to File, Save Current As, and we're going to name this 02-SM for static mesh. Make sure that the maps folder is selected and click Save. We will delete our BSP brush template, but we'll do it after we import and place the static mesh so we can align it to the BSP brushes. I want it to be in the exact same position. Now select the static mesh folder. This is where all of our content is kept for static meshes, and click Import. We want to navigate into our Maya LT directory, Exported Meshes folder, and select the FBX file to import. Under FBX import options, we want to disable Auto Generate Collision, disable Generate Light Map UVs, enable Combined Meshes, because we have 4 separate objects and we want them to be combined as one single object. Then disable Import Materials and Import Textures. Then click on Import or Import All. We will create our own collision and we will generate our own light map UVs. On import, we will have 2 errors. One is to generate tangent basis, which will result in incorrect shading, and the second one is 0 binormals. Both of these errors are due to UVs. the subject's UVs right now are a mess. So if we fix our UVs, we fix these errors. So instead of waiting until we UV the subject, let's take care of it now. We're going to automatically UV the subject just so we remove these errors and make sure that it is the UVs that are causing it. Let's delete the static mesh because we'll need to re-import it as a new object. Select it in the content browser, hit delete, and then confirm the delete. Back in Maya LT, let's select all objects and take a look at the UVs. I have a separate UV custom shelf, and I'm going to open up the UV editor. This is what's causing those errors. So all we're going to do is run an automatic UV function. I have it on my custom tool shelf, but you can also access it under UV automatic. We will spend a lot of time UVing this object, but right now we just want to get rid of those errors. So select all the objects again, and let's export. We're going to save over our Miami corner store, and use the same options as before for export. Back in UE4, let's import this as a new object. Select the static mesh folder and click import. Then select the Miami corner store. We're going to keep all the options the same, making sure that we have disabled collision, disabled generate light map UVs, enable combine, and disabled import of materials and textures. And click import. Let's drag the static mesh into the level and position it to overlap our BSP geometry. I just want to place it in the exact same spot as our template. Then let's select the BSP template and delete it. If we ever need to come back to it, we do have a map 01 BSP saved. Let's go ahead and take a look all around, and everything looks good. We now have our static mesh inside UE4, and when we need to test, we'll just export and re-import into UE4 as an ongoing process throughout the modeling stage. Our last quick step is to save all. Go to File and Save All.